You ever buy something and realize at the end of that purchase it was the dumbest decision you've ever made? That's how I feel about this RPK. I really hate AK platforms. And in fact, I think the only acceptable AK platform would be a Galil, like my 7.62 Galil, my 5.45 Galil. Everything else to me is hot garbage, so I'm not really sure why I bought this RPK to begin with, and I do believe it's one of my worst investments ever. And today I'm gonna dog on it. We're gonna talk about why I regret buying my RPK. As always, I start my videos off with disclosures where I talk about if I have any contracts, partnerships, or if anybody paid for placements in the content. I think it's important to be transparent to you all so you know who I'm working with, maybe who I'm not working with, and if any money was exchanged to make a video. I think that I owe at least that much to all of you. So the RPK, I bought it full price. There was no contract, obviously. I just went on a website and I bought it. It shipped to my door because I'm an FFL and I owned it, unfortunately. The optic was sent to me a long time ago from Vortex, but they didn't know I was making this video. They didn't ask for it. So yes, that was given to me, but not part of like a package or media deal. The side rail thing, which I don't even remember what company makes this. It doesn't even say on the side. I bought that full price as well. The muzzle device is from BDE. That was given to us because we did a bunch of suppressor content for them. But again, there was no contract or anything in place for this particular build. That's it for this build. Let's dive into the actual video. I freaking hate this bipod so much. I've always disliked AK platforms. So you might be asking yourself right now, Jared, why the heck did you buy one? That, my friend, is a very good question that we're gonna get into in this video. Because to me, the only AK variant, and I know some of you AK purists are gonna just roll in your graves right now, to me is a Galil. I feel like these are the only acceptable AKs that exist in the world because of their fire control group, because of the ergonomics, because of how they run. I just think that they're a better platform than any AK that's out there. It's not that I really hate AKs just for the sake of hating AKs. They're just not as good as an AR15 in like any capacity that I've ever found, from accuracy to reliability to the soft recoil to the ease of switching to giggle switches. Everything in between, I've just had better experiences with AR15s. So because of that, I've always had a distaste for AKs. So we're gonna get to that question, why did I buy an RPK? And really, the reason I bought the RPK, I'm gonna trade out some guns here, is because I originally built this rifle. This is my 20-inch. If you guys don't know, you should check out a video we did on the TA Targets channel called the RPK of the Homeland, where I went over this particular build. It looked a little bit different at that time, but my objective in that video was to create sort of an American-based RPK style rifle that could fill in the roles of an RPK, just do it better. And as I did that video, it blew up, it got tons of views. People loved the content. It started begging the question, should I also own an RPK? And I think RPKs look cool. I thought the theory behind them was cool. So that's kind of what led me into purchasing an RPK to begin with. It really started with this foundational rifle that kicked off that journey to where I unfortunately wasted a lot of money on an RPK. So the overall question that I'm asking myself is, why the heck am I even keeping this RPK? And that's a question I'm still trying to answer. But before we dive too deep into that, let's talk about this 20-inch RPK of the Homeland build, because this is gonna start off with the foundation of which I measured the RPK against and why I feel like the RPK didn't quite stack up against my expectations, especially knowing the history of the RPK, how AK purists view the RPK, and just what I thought that it should be able to fulfill. All of those things that I felt fell short were because I based it off of the performance of this 20-inch. So this 20-inch AR15 started out life as a Zion 15. It is a basic 16-inch AR15 that I simply swapped out the barrel for a 20-inch Faxon fluted match barrel. And I did that to be able to gain higher velocity, better precision and performance. And I also have a converted full auto lower on this particular rifle. So you are able to run select fire. I did that with an M16 second sear. And then I run the Geisley super select fire trigger on this particular one. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, this is my semi-auto lower. I have another lower that I typically run with this particular rifle that is a machine gun lower. So I wanted to be able to lay down suppressive fire, but I also wanted something that was extremely accurate. And the benefits of an AR-15 is you can do both. You can have a high rate of fire, very soft shooting rifle that's really tuned for your objective, and then you can flip it to full auto and just lay down strings of fire. And when I'm at 200 yards, I can do 5 to 6 round strings of full auto fire on a C-zone and land every single shot. I can't even do that semi-auto with the RPK. So let that sink in for a moment. Now in the original video, I had a different optic. This particular optic setup on this rifle right now is more geared toward precision, because this rifle happens to be my most accurate rifle that I have. 9 shot groups at 100 yards are just one single jagged hole. It is crazy accurate. I've shot over 1,000 yards consistently with this rifle using the 73 grain match ammunition from Hornady. It does everything that I could ever want in a platform. So this was my foundational basis for building out, or buying, I should say, an RPK. And when we look at the benefits of an AR-15 and all of those things that I just listed off, that's why we can start looking at it and say, the RPK really just doesn't make sense. So let's talk a little bit about the cons of this RPK and why I think that it just falls so short. And we can start off with that first range day when I really realized that it just wasn't gonna cut it for me. I think the bigger thing that this video points out is that we've all fallen victim to the trap of buying a gun that we think is cool and it might not be practical for our use case. And then what we can do is basically buy into this consumer reality where now I've got this rifle here that I have to feed with a different type of ammunition. It's a totally different fire control group. The manual of arms is different. Everything about it is funky and strange compared to an AR-15. So whenever I'm shooting it, I have to approach it from a different angle. I still haven't figured out how I want to mount a sling on this thing. The bipod sucks. It's super unstable. It's recoil intensive. Everything about it to me is strange, and I bought it. I paid full price just like everybody else does. And now I've got a rifle that I regret buying. So the broader premise of this video is really just addressing that trend that happens in our community where we buy things that we don't necessarily need, if that makes sense. And I definitely did not need this rifle. Now you could say I could justify it because I did have interest in educating everybody about it. And I thought it would be neat to use it in content. I thought I would actually enjoy it. But man, it just burns me up every time I look at it because it's not a rifle to me that's practical. So what are the main flaws of this? Well, the big flaws that I see of AKs, aside from the controls, the charging handle being on the wrong side of the gun, the safety being clunky and difficult to use, no last round hold open. When you look at this RPK, the first thing that I immediately noticed is, one, it's super front heavy. You've got this janky wooden foregrip that's super tiny, and the stock on this thing is like 10 inches. So like the length of pull of this is ridiculous. Whether you're laying prone or you're shooting it regularly standing or crouching, this gun feels weird. It's just, you're too choked up on it. Then on top of that, with it being so front heavy and the grip being so close to the magazine, any sustained fire that I was doing with this is very unstable. On top of that, when I originally saw that this thing had a bipod, I was like, oh, that's cool. It's got a built-in bipod, but It is the most unstable bipod I have ever touched in my life. Like, there is no way to get stable on this thing. And originally I actually considered converting this thing to full auto, and I was about to do it. I had everything lined up. We were gonna mess with the receiver and get it all done here in house. And then I shot it. And I just realized even semi-auto, getting behind this gun and keeping it stable long enough to get strings of fire on any target whatsoever is ridiculously difficult. Every single time you fire this gun, it just torques to the side and it moves the sights off of your target. Like, it is so difficult to keep this thing directly where you need it to be that honestly, I have no idea how you would hit anything with this full auto. And there's a lot of folks saying in the videos that we did previously, I should be running an FRT. They want to see it in full auto. And it's just like, it's hard enough to shoot as it is, let alone make this thing a select fire weapon. And now I've got to be able to control this ridiculous cyclic rate on a rifle that's hard enough to shoot semi-auto. I know it sounds like I'm ragging on it, and good. It's because this gun sucks. The other thing about AKs that I really despise is the concentricity issues where you can't really run suppressors. Now, I didn't check this barrel. This barrel supposedly is concentric. However, looking down the bore and looking through the baffles of that muzzle brake on the end, I personally wouldn't trust it. There's folks that might just hit send and hope for the best. But for me, it just didn't seem like a good idea to run a suppressor host. On top of that, the other flaws with an AK platform to me is just the way the sights are, the way the dust cover is, the top cover on top of the bolt. You've got to do these clunky side mount rails, and yes, you can do it. Yes, you can mount an optic like I did. How accurate and return to zero is that going to be? I guess that's going to depend on the quality of your mount. Just for me, there's just so much extra stuff that goes into an AK that I'm like, I look at my 20-inch that I just laid on the floor. I didn't have to do any of that. I didn't have to mess around with any of it. And I am not negating the history of AKs. I'm not negating the fact that they have been widely used, that they've been effective in their use, that they're very reliable. I'm not saying any of that stuff. Although I will say that we had a lot of malfunctions with this particular gun because there's an issue with the trigger spring or something happening inside of there. So we were having all kinds of malfunctions on that first range day. I still have to get to the bottom of that and figure out what that is, but I had way more malfunctions with this. In fact, I've had zero malfunctions with my 20-inch ever, period, than with this RPK. So those are just the downsides that, in my opinion, are inherent to any AK. It doesn't really matter if it's an RPK. The RPK just exaggerates, in my opinion, those negatives because it's bigger, it's longer, it's heavier, and that freaking bipod just drives me nuts. And even when you have it stowed away, if you're running through the woods, this thing is so loud. Like it just, you have to hear it. Can't even get this thing. There we go. Oh look, it popped off again. Oh look, it popped off again. It is just so annoying to use this rifle. I digress. And so I guess the broader point that I'm trying to make here is I had a perfectly acceptable rifle that was proven, it works really well, it's stable, soft recoiling, the most accurate rifle that I own. And I betrayed the platform that I already knew that worked because I was interested in something that I thought looked cool. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of us have been down that road where we've made that same mistake. And if you don't believe me, take a second and pause this video and walk over to your gun safe and just look inside the safe for a moment. What rifles do you have that technically serve no purpose and they don't make you better? They don't make you a better provider or protector. And at the end of the day, even though I justified buying the RPK because I wanted to teach people about it, I realized that it's not even a gun that I want to speak about. I don't want to go into the history of it. I don't really want to talk about it or waste my time on it because it's 2025 and I have a rifle like this. I've already got the gun that can do everything the RPK does and better. And if you don't like that it's 5.56, I've got a 6 ARC downstairs that can do everything that the AK does way better. I can still run that full auto. I can reach out at 1,400 yards and hit stuff. I can't say the same about this RPK. It is not an accurate platform and it's not stable. It doesn't serve any real purpose to me. It's not a defensive weapon. I can't even come up with the fictional scenario where I would go for the RPK. Like, it's kind of cool if you want to just hang one up on your wall, but again, I bought a gun with no real purpose behind it. And then further, it spent about 1.5 years in our safe where I didn't even shoot it. How many times have we made that same exact mistake where we've bought something that we just impulsively said it's cool and it just goes into your safe? And I just wanted to speak on that today in this video and just try to encourage you all that when we're making purchases like this, it matters. Because I spent probably around $2,500 total for that rifle, the components, all of the stuff, maybe more since I ran a lot of ammo through it. How much further could that money have gone if I would have just focused on this rifle and training? And to put it into perspective, if you would take, say, a Haley Strategic D5 precision course or even a D5 carbine course or something like that with a rifle like this, you're gonna take that $2,500 and you're gonna walk away with so much more skill set on the back end of it versus having an extra rifle. And if there's one thing that I think our community in general could do to become better every single year, is if we just try to stay away from that impulsive purchasing. We keep things simple. We dial in a specific build, maybe 2. You could justify maybe 3 if you like micro builds. If you like a middle of the ground, like a 10-3, and you want a precision rifle, you could justify that. We also have a video where I talked about the 4 guns everybody should buy over at the TA Targets YouTube channel. You can check that video out where I go into the mindset behind the different builds. But we should just make sure that when we're building or buying something that we're first identifying the why behind it. Because if we don't know the why, the what isn't gonna matter. The why always drives the what. And in this case, my why wasn't strong enough, and that's why I'm sitting here regretting my RPK build. So I am curious what you guys think. I know I dogged all over that RPK. I am sorry for all of my followers that are AK purists. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but I am curious to hear, would you like to see a review of the RPK? Please don't make me do it. I really don't want to do it. Maybe I'll just sell it fast enough so I don't have to do it. But would a video where we dive into the history of the RPK and the applications and the role that it played in firearm history, would that be helpful to you? Or do you prefer to see content where we're talking about more modern guns that are better than an RPK? Would that be more helpful content for you all? I'm curious what you think about the buying and spending habits of our community. Leave that down in the comment section below. And always remember that if you support TA Targets, you're supporting my channel here. That is really the only channel sponsor. It's not really a sponsor because I own the company, but technically a channel sponsor of Keystone Carry. So when you buy products over at TA, you're supporting what I'm doing over here. You're making all of this possible. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys. And if you need any help deciding on what target systems to buy, you can always leave me a comment down below, send me an email our CS team, whatever. We're willing to help you out through that whole process. Let me know what you guys think. Stay well, stay safe. I'll see you in the next one.